Hi, I'm Sean Crouch, and this is Inside the Mind of Aaron Mahnke. So let's go into Birkenhair. You know, this great tale of, I want to say grave robbing, but it's not, right? So what is Birkenhair to you?
It's a tale with a lot of energy and life, even though it's really built around death.
This is the fun of history too, is the different ways that history has been told, right? So we use the bell on the grave. There are different meanings. Some people say saved by the bell, right? That's where it comes from, someone ringing a bell and they go dig them up and like, oh my God, you're alive. But that may not be true.
It might not. This is where we get into the world of lore, where there are some things that are very documented and you can track down the exact answer to things, and other things are more of that antique that's been damaged over time as it gets passed down. I don't think we really know where Saved by the Bell comes from.
We use it where it's attached to a few of the graves. Probably the richer people probably put the bell into the grave to stop grave robbing, that they would come underneath and steal the body where the person in the tower wouldn't see it, so they would hear the bell ring as the body got stolen.
There was a small window of time that these grave robbers could work because
Right.
the body needed to be fresh prior to a lot of modern advancements in embalming, and they needed to get the body out of the grave as close to burial as possible.
A corpse technically isn't property, so we're not stealing.
Legally speaking, it's just
Trespassing.
which is why we get creative.
Well, one of the things that I love about that era of Birkenhair is just how creative people were getting with thwarting the theft of these bodies. And it does remind me a little bit of like MacGyver. You know, some families had the money to pay someone to sit on the grave, right? To just sit right there and watch, and then nobody could come up and dig. They would start 100 yards out, and they would tunnel in, and there were probably networks of tunnels in these graveyards, and they would pull the body out through the foot of the coffin. And so the grave was never dug up, and yet it would be taken. And they created these things called mort safes, which were like it was almost like a metal cage on top of the coffin burial site. So you'd see grass with a metal cage.
But some people may not get that pleasure. Oh? Indeed, they're called resurrectionists. What?
I love this term because it feels different than what we talk about now, but resurrectionist.
Yeah.
So
It's a neat term.
why are they called resurrectionists? Because they're not bringing a body to life, which is what I think of when I think of resurrection.
But the body's coming back out of the grave.
Okay.
You know.
That to me feels like a PR term.
It really does, right?
Do you think, or do we have any knowledge at all, we're doctors, rather than saying I bought it from a grave robber, I bought it from a resurrectionist? To me, that sounds like an okay term. Is there any proof to that? Is there any, like, why resurrectionist?
Yeah, I've never seen, I don't know where the term comes from,
Right.
you know, like Saved by the Bell. Is that a term that was coined by the people doing it? Or by the authorities who are looking for those people? I mean, it just seems kind of weird that the police,
It's a kind term.
looking for criminals who are
Right.
stealing bodies, wouldn't use the worst term available for them,
Exactly.
right? Right, corpse thieves.
Yeah.
But instead they call them resurrectionists.
Resurrectionists.
It does feel a little bit like a PR term.
This is all about research. If I can't show this body to the rest of the medical community, then this lot will leave and go to a competitor's operating theater with better wares.
And so this movement of people who are stealing bodies for medical science, you had a broken ratio of people who needed bodies to bodies that were available. Back then you could only dissect a human corpse if that person had been executed for a crime.
These doctors had to know. I mean, I guess this is why Dr. Knox didn't get in trouble, really, because
Right.
everybody was doing it, it sounds like.
These people were in a tough place. If they didn't have bodies, they couldn't teach their students. And I think to some degree the schools went along with it. It was sort of that, you know, turn a blind eye because it was a necessary evil.
Now let's talk morals then. Let's talk the morals of this, because that's interesting to me, which we don't really get into in the episode so much. But the morals of it, these are dead people.
They are.
They're just gonna, worms are gonna eat them in the ground. Or you could bring them to a doctor who could learn how to cure all of these diseases that were killing people like crazy back then and are not now because of what happened in Scotland in the 1820s. Because I'm sure there's a lot of moral arguments back then even.
I think that there's a misconception that ethics is like, it's a hard and fast thing that's always been constant over the centuries or thousands of years. But ethics shifts and moves with the culture. These bodies were taken out of graves to be used in medical science. I think today we look at that and we say, well, of course, that makes a lot of sense. There are some things you can only learn by putting your hands on it, right? And taking it apart, an engine in a car, or a heart in a chest. And this was important stuff. We see that now, but I think the medical field back then saw how important it was. But most of society was just I think they were unsure.